Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about my adoption story. I've been contemplating doing this video for a while now, just wasn't sure when the right time would be. And then my mom brought it up to me again and said, Jazzy, you should really do a video about your adoption story. So just wanted to kind of share with you guys a little bit more about myself and where I'm from and just give you guys a little more background on me. So I was adopted when I was 4 months old in Pakistan. My parents are Americans and they were working in Pakistan at the time. They already had 6 children of their own, but were looking into adopting a little one. And let's see here, my biological mother, for whatever reason it may be, I've thought of every single thing possible, just couldn't keep me, and obviously, wanted the best for me. She traveled pretty far to go to a hospital, and she went with her father, which would have been my grandfather at the time, and they made sure to write when they got to the hospital and she gave birth to me that they wanted this baby to go to a Christian family. That was something very specific that they wanted. And my parents had a really good friend working at the hospital at that time who brought that to my mom's attention. After my biological mother gave birth to me, she and her father left. So there was no further contact with them after that. I continued to stay in the hospital, and I think at about 2 months old, that is when my parents, my grandma, and my brother came to the hospital to come and visit me. And my brother jokes always all the time, I picked you out, I picked you out. I think there was few other babies that were there as well. Yeah, that's our little joke, and he says it all the time. I picked you out, Jazzy. You're so special because I picked you out. It makes me feel good when he says that. It took a process of about 2 months, I think, to do all the paperwork and such, but I know nowadays it's even more complicated and it's super expensive for adoption and international adoption. I meant to say it was an interracial adoption, which it was, and I'll talk further about that as well. So anyways, it was a process. It took about 2 months total for everything to go. They would visit, and then they would go back home, they would visit, and it was a little bit of a journey. I think they took like an hour and a half or something bus ride at the time. The year was 1980. So that was, a big deal back then in 1980 for this whole process. And I think it was at 4 months that they came in for a routine visit, and the doctor at that time said, you should really take her now. Some of the other babies are getting sick, and I think it's just best that you take her now. So they tried to finish all the paperwork that they could get done, and because I had been there for a couple months, some of the nurses had already had nicknames for me, and had like crocheted me a couple sweaters. Like I know there's this purple sweater that they had knitted for me. And so they gave my mom, bottles and formula. Even though they knew they were going to adopt me, they were still short on a couple of things and not completely prepared. So they tried to give them whatever they had. And so I was adopted when I was 4 months old. And I think we lived in Pakistan for about 2 years until their work was finished. And then we moved to the United States. And we predominantly lived in California for, whether it was Northern California or Central California, for the majority of my life. So, growing up in, like I was going to say, an interracial family, because, there is a difference between me and, my siblings and my parents because they're American, and definitely was a little bit harder, I'd have to say. And I don't really ever think there was a time that it was even brought to my attention that I was adopted, even from the time I was like I can remember being 4 or 5 and just knowing that, oh, okay, I'm adopted. And I guess I was okay with it. I got so much love. I was so lucky to have, 5 older sisters and a brother. And they were so much older than me, and loved watching them do their makeup and their hair, and they would all sing. And we had such wonderful traditional family, holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. My mom made them so special. I never really felt deprived or neglected in any way. I always felt loved, and I loved being around my family. But I think no matter what, when you're adopted, there's just always that little part of you that's just a little bit sad or that, there's just like a little bit of a hole in your heart, but other than that, everything, was pretty okay. I think, that when I say interracial, it's because, when you're growing up in adoption, I think, and it's the same race, it's not as complicated. And I bring that up because we lived in a predominantly Caucasian area as well. I was the only one who basically looked like this. And so, as hard as it is right now just to be a teenager and grow up, and, an elementary kid and grow up and try to find who you are and find your identity, it made things, for me, I think, even more tougher, because I couldn't figure out who to relate with. Who do I look like? Or, just basically just nobody to kind of relate with. If you understand kind of what I'm saying. So that was a little bit hard. I mean, I love music so much, so at that time I was totally into, R&B music and jazz and Motown, just love that kind of music. And so I felt like I related with that, and that was good. That was really good. But once again, I think when I became a teenager, that's probably when it really started hitting me again, that, I'm adopted. And then I had, some of the rebellious time, even more so than a regular teenager. I really started rebelling, and I think it was kind of to test them, to see, do they really love me? It's always a question of, am I really loved because I'm adopted and all that. And they did. They loved me so much, and they put up with so much for me. And now, I look back on it and I understand it a little bit more. But it was a little hard. So I just remember myself always thinking to myself how much I wanted a family of my own, how much I wanted something that looked like me, and so I would just dream and dream and dream about having little babies and just waiting. I know little girls like to be mommies anyways, but I just couldn't wait to start a family of my own and have that connection with something that came from me and that I looked like. And so when I had my first child, so much of that sadness went away. It really did. And I don't think about it too much now that I'm older. Having my children and seeing them gives me that fulfillment that I have, that I feel like that was making me sad. But, as a kid, as a teenager, as a younger kid, just going to the store with my mom, we'd go to the big grocery store, and, especially people, like me, who looked like me, would stare at me. And that is what really got me more than anything. I mean, I think I've expressed this to them sometimes, but they probably really, really don't know, because it's hard when you don't have to go through these things. I felt so sad, like, what is wrong with me? Why do I look like this? And I would struggle with that a lot. I definitely probably, cried quite a few times, make up songs about, trying to, find myself, and definitely had a couple of different identity crises, but we all do, and was super insecure about myself, I just wanted to be loved and accepted for who I was. All my friends were just, totally regular American kids, just like me, and my whole family was like this, but I looked different. I mean, it's really boggling to me too, because I know that when I was a teenager, my mom had to go to India to do something, and we were actually going to go and try and find my birth mother, and she was so wonderful. I can't even imagine, what it would be like to adopt a child. I think it takes a special type of person to do that. I really do. I think even more love, comes from the heart of somebody who adopts another child. And then to even be willing to help them out. Because I would cry sometimes and just say, I want to find my mom, I want to find my mom. And it really wasn't that I wanted the relationship with her. It was that I just felt like something was missing, or I was so sad, but to have my mom and my dad be so helpful and understanding and willing to help out, was amazing. And then we got to India at that time, and I just kind of decided that, let her have her life. I don't want to cause any problems with her, if she happens to be married, if she happens to have kids of her own, I don't want to cause any problems for her. And I would love to see, what she looks like. Obviously I don't speak a different language, so I wouldn't know what to say to her. It's just, there's all kinds of thoughts that go through my head, but I just bowed out. I just decided that we don't need to take this any further. But I will always appreciate my parents being so helpful and listening to me and helping me get through that time. So, my husband happens to be Pakistani, and it's just really awesome that he loves me and accepts me for who I am, because there's so many things that, in every culture and every religion that, you should do or you shouldn't do, and it's hard because, I can only be me. I do love to cook, though, whether it's Indian food or Pakistani food or any type of food. I love cooking. I just started really showing an interest for it as a teenager, and have started to kind of, through trial and error, do different things. I may do a couple recipes sometime. I thought that might be fun to do. But he accepts me for me. We do eat Indian food every now and then. Well, Pakistani food, excuse me. I honestly don't really know the difference. I know that there's so many different factors, but I was born in Pakistan. I'm Pakistani, so I make Pakistani food or Indian food, whatever you call it. I love it. I think it tastes great. So the kids love it, and so I'm very grateful that he accepts me for me. It's another one of those things. When I saw him, it was like I just felt immediately drawn to him. Like, I need to be with him, and I want to be friends with him, and I just feel very comfortable, and I feel very at myself with him, and that's what we all want in our relationships. But it just makes it that much more special to me, and that we have our children makes me feel whole and complete. So that's my situation, my adoption story. Totally, love to hear anybody else's stories. And for those people who are adopting kids, you are wonderful people, and you are going to give so much love to that child. And it's hard as a child to be able to say, I need to be really good, or I need to appreciate what these people have done for me, because when you're a teenager, you're thinking about all your own stuff that's not really that important, and you're complaining about your parents. But as an adult, I am so grateful and so thankful for my parents, who are still a huge active part of my life, and I always will think, about my biological mother. You can never take that away. But it only happens every now and then. It's usually, maybe on my birthday or Mother's Day, usually on my birthday. And of course, I just wonder, does she think about me, and, is she okay, but that's just the typical stuff. Other than that, I am, doing fine. I have had a great life, and I love being a mom, and I feel complete now. So thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye.